Hey guys, what's up? So, big day today. If you don't know who I am, my name's Alessandro. I'm coming at you because Ran is on holiday today. We've got the Bittensor halving today. So the first Bittensor halving this is. Bittensor, very much like Bitcoin, has a halving schedule every roughly 4 years. The token emissions drop by 50%. Today is the first day. And we're going to be going through why I am basically holding TAO instead of any ETH. And we're going to go into some reasons as to why that is. But fundamentally, we're going to outline exactly what the halving is and hopefully, well, potentially what it can be doing to the Bittensor ecosystem at large. The impact it's going to have, especially on the different subnets, which are the sort of like ecosystems that exist on Bittensor, and essentially what I'm doing as a result of that. So if that sounds good to you, let's get into the show. No intro. All right, no worries. Let's just go. All right, guys. So today is the Bittensor halving, right? So it happened literally, if I show you here, half an hour ago or so. This little sign here, right? 10.5 million TAO tokens have now been mined. It's got a 21 million supply, just like Bitcoin has. So obviously at 10.5 million, there is, well, that's half the supply. So the emissions reduced by 50%. And you can see really clearly on this Bittensor halving kind of like emission schedule here. If I get my big head out the way a minute. You can see, right, we've got, this is the sort of like emission schedule. And right now, if I get rid of the alphas as well, Bittensor is now in its first halving, okay? Bittensor is a super complex protocol. Fundamentally, it's a proof of work and a proof of stake chain. It's built on Polkadot's substrate, which arguably is actually quite bearish, to be honest. That's the only thing I don't really like about Bittensor overall, is that it's built on substrate. But the tokenomics of it are basically backed by, well, based upon Bitcoins, right? So it's 21 million supply, etc., etc. Now, there's two kinds of things that are important with the halving. The first is the TAO emissions. So every 4 years roughly, the TAO emissions half, but there's a separate kind of like emission schedule, and these are the subnets, right? So if I add this little second chart here, this is the emissions of the subnets. So on Bittensor, you have, it's a network, right? It's a massive big network, and on the network, there's separate networks that exist underneath the sort of Bittensor umbrella. And this little like purple line here is the emission schedules of one of those networks, right? And there's 128 of those. But really, since these networks have been released, they haven't really been very successful, right? Like TAO itself, this is when dTAO launched, which is the upgrade that brought networks underneath the entire Bittensor network. Well, it gave those networks tokens, right? You could almost think of them as L2s, as layer 2s. It gave those subnets that existed on Bittensor tokens. It started right here, and you know, Bittensor's been down since. If you'd asked me a year ago when dTAO launched where I would have thought Bittensor would be, I would not have said 32% down. Absolutely not. But anyway, that's it. That's where we are, right? And the reason for that is basically every single day, 7.2 thousand TAO are mined, right? And that's so much. Just look at this dashboard here. Every single day before the halving was going on, $2 million worth of TAO were hitting the market every single day. I mean, it's just like so much supply side demand that the market's then got to like absorb all that somehow. And it isn't quite so simple as like there's 2 million TAO coming, so it's going to be 2 million TAO are going to be getting sold every day, because the way the sort of network works is, you can see down here, these are all the subnets, right? And they're priced in TAO. The way Bittensor works is that when a TAO is mined or produced, it's split between all of these subnets. And the bigger a subnet is in terms of its market cap, the more of that TAO gets distributed to that particular subnet. So this is the biggest one. It's called 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. It gets, you know, 6%, close to 7% of all the emissions on the of each TAO that's mined. So every block used to be 1 TAO, it was getting 0.067 TAO, now it's obviously getting half of that, right? So this reduction is quite meaningful. They're going to be, there's $1 million less in terms of TAO coming out every single day. Obviously, that means that theoretically, there can be a maximum of 50% less sell pressure every single day as well. Because the way these subnets work, right, is they need to fund their operations. How do they fund their operations? They exist on the Bittensor network, they earn TAO, and they must sell that TAO to fund their operations, which obviously isn't very good for the token overall. And the reason it's been so bad, right, is because, let me just show you quickly. This unlock chart here just means that these subnet tokens are aggressively being unlocked. See this cyan line here? It goes up much, much faster than the TAO line, which means more subnet tokens are emitted per block than TAO tokens. And these are the sort of APYs you get. It looks like 𝗕𝗃𝗍𝗧 2.0, right? 120% APY, 84% APY. And all this shows you is each of these is a subnet. This is the biggest subnet. This is the second biggest subnet. This is the third biggest subnet, blah, blah, blah. And if you stake those subnet tokens, these are your current APYs. 70%, 120%. It looks like almost like 𝗕𝗃𝗍𝗧, right? Except there's actual value essentially to these networks, to these tokens, because they're producing something. They're not just yield that it exists from a token just being mined, right? These are network tokens or subnet tokens that are tied to some business, some entity that is producing something of value as determined by Bittensor stakers. Now, Bittensor is super complex, but on a very, very simple level, all it is an incentive mechanism for intelligence. If you've got an idea, you can go set up a subnet and say, hey, if you guys solve my problem the best, you're going to get rewarded in tokens. That's all it is, really. It's like a layer for incentivizing participation, a way of giving people value for doing a good thing or for doing good work. And the way people decide if the work's good or not is the validators. The validators say, yep, this is good, or no, this is terrible. So the miners that do the best work get the most amount of TAO tokens. Now, what have the issues been? Well, the issues have been basically TAO has been being unlocked at an aggressive rate, a bunch of sell-side pressure, plus these subnets have got these ridiculous APYs as well, again, producing a bunch of sell-side pressure. And if you look at how the subnets have done, basically, in terms of their price, just down only. So depressing. This is the best, the one that has the most value. And if you look at its a price action since inception, to watch. It doesn't look much, to be honest. Not unlocks, daily emissions every single day that are used to incentivize the network, and it just produces. This kind of charts here, right, where stuff looks awful. How awful this is, right down here. These are awful charts, yes, absolutely. They can go far, far lower. But for Bittensor, the opportunity is pretty obvious. If we think about where centralized AI is right now, right, you've got constant bubble headlines coming from everywhere saying, look, the AI bubble is going to pop, this and that. Oracle dropped, 15% last week. Everyone was a bit scared. But arguably, a lot of the actual spending in AI so far is useful spending. They're doing their absolute best to try and create infrastructure that is going to be used as more and more and more and more people utilize AI. Yes, the revenue streams maybe aren't quite there yet, but fundamentally, it doesn't look, the bubble doesn't necessarily need to pop tomorrow. It might not even need to pop ever necessarily. I've done a bunch of videos, you can go check them out, on sort of the potential for these things to go wrong. And obviously there's going to be a load of casualties along the way. But as more and more entities end up investing in AI, the capital expenditure is just getting ridiculous. You've got, this is a report from Messari, and they're estimating that by Citigroup saying that in 2029, roughly $2.8 trillion in spending in capital expenditure is going to be, it would have happened by that point. And you know, this year we 600 billion committed for 2026. But the numbers are like eye-watering. But the adoption rate of AI is obviously increasing massively, right? This is the same report, just small businesses are already using like 38% increase in AI adoption, large businesses over 50%. The rate of adoption of AI is like accelerating at a rate faster than anything we've ever seen, faster than the uptake of the internet, obviously, faster than the uptake of crypto, faster than the uptake of social media. The rate of adoption of it is crazy when you think it just really the first user generated, like the first sort of user application was ChatGPT just in 2023. I mean, the rate of adoption is scary. And here's the sort of like disconnect, right? Which is why I think US VC fund the right. The amount of VC capital that's going into AI, it's not surprising, we're seeing it absolutely everywhere. But the amount of in a decentralized way is decreasing. So you've got this sort of like disconnect, right? Capital expenditure into like centralized AI companies is going up, into decentralized AI companies is going down. Now, maybe this is the market saying, look, it's going to win. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it doesn't. There's no guarantee that a decentralized win centralized. That's really what the internet is. That's obviously what Bitcoin is. I think if you're in this space and you don't have an idea that a decentralized version of like some kind of AI can be competitive, then maybe you should study history a bit more, because a decentralized open source version of something can be like very, very competitive. And right now it's being valued basically like a science experiment. This is like a Bittensor subnets versus centralized AI counterparts, right? This is my Twitter at Alessandro Risk if you want to go check it out. But this is the dashboard, right? The dashboard is here. Bittensor subnets against a centralized AI counterpart. So for shoots, they're sort of like an AWS, right? So shoots are kind of like AWS. A little bit like Anthropic's Claude. You've got literal businesses that exist literal businesses that exist on Bittensor as subnets that are basically doing some version of what already exists in the world, except their valuations is like so much lower. And maybe the market is just saying, look, these things aren't valuable. Maybe that's true. You know, maybe that's the case. Audio issues. Something wrong with my mic. Sorry, boys. Oh, shit. Has it been off for the whole time? GG. Oh, what a joke. How's the audio now? Let me check. Any better or not? Sound glitches. Oh, nightmare. Let me check my mic somewhere else. It says my mic's on my side. Good for now. Oh, that's so annoying. Has it been terrible this whole time? Did it unclip the whole time? So you've literally heard nothing I've said? It's good. At what point did it sort of like break up, I wonder? How far back should I go? I'll keep going through for now. Yeah, 5 minutes ago. Okay, cool. Real quick. All I was saying before is that basically AI capital expenditure in AI is getting to eye-watering levels. we're seeing lots of big headlines of the AI bubble popping, but the expenditure into AI is increasing, and a lot of the infrastructure that's being built out, 650+ billion committed to AI infrastructure in 2026, for now, is going okay. There needs to be some revenue eventually, yes, but it doesn't look like it's going to pop just because everyone's saying it's going to pop. Alongside that, you've got the adoption rate of AI going to like just crazy. But the disconnect here is that you've got US VC investment in centralized AI is increasing, but investment in decentralized AI is decreasing. So you've got this big disconnect. And like maybe it's just that centralized AI is going to win. Maybe that's the case. But I still think there's a big like opportunity for decentralized AI to do something, right? And when you look at this here, Bittensor subnets against their sort of like centralized AI counterpart, all of these are subnets. This is the sort of top 10 subnets. They're all little businesses, or not little, they're all big businesses that exist, and they're subsidized essentially via TAO tokens, via existing on Bittensor. Bittensor incentivizes them to go and produce some intelligence some way. 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗧 is basically AWS. 𝗕𝗃𝗔𝗥𝗗𝗦, this one here is basically like very similar to Anthropic. And you've got all these different, this is a prediction markets one, it's like a finance, it's a bit similar to 𝗵𝗯𝗶𝗁. You've got lots of different companies essentially that exist on Bittensor, but they're valued like experiments. The difference in valuation between the Bittensor version and the sort of like real centralized winning version is night and day. You've got like 600x gap, 60x gap, 10x gap, 2000x gap. Like these differences, these gap valuation differences are crazy. And the thing is, it's not like they're loads worse. In actual fact, in some respects, they're better. And this is where it kind of gets a little bit crazy, right? Because 𝗕𝗃𝗔𝗥𝗗𝗦, so this one here, 𝗕𝗃𝗔𝗥𝗗𝗦, which is like the 4th biggest subnet, currently valued at about $267 million in terms of its FDV, is now is like state of the art for agentic solving of Python problems. So there's this very, very tough, very frequently used Python sort of like examination. It's called Polyglot, the Polyglot set. And recently, 𝗕𝗃𝗔𝗥𝗗𝗦 has produced the best solution. It got 96%. And the sort of like status quo best before that was GPT-5, and GPT-5 got 88%. So Bittensor is solving this problem better than OpenAI and Gemini and Grok, right? That's kind of crazy when you consider that this particular business here, Subnet 69 𝗕𝗃𝗔𝗥𝗗𝗦, is solving the problem of making AI an excellent coder better than OpenAI, Anthropic, Grok. And those companies are valued at, 400 billion, 500 billion. OpenAI raised 40 billion, very recently. So there's this massive, massive disconnect of like 667x. Now, obviously, this isn't to say that 𝗕𝗃𝗔𝗥𝗗𝗦 are going to do a 667x from here. Obviously, it's not financial advice. The thing is, it's just that there's these really interesting disconnects between the centralized incumbent and the sort of like Bittensor equivalent. And the Bittensor equivalent is doing very, very good work. There's also 𝗕𝗃𝗦𝗧 is like serverless AI compute, a little bit like AWS. If you remember, AWS went down, 4 weeks ago. And if you were running your stuff on 𝗕𝗃𝗧, it didn't go down. And so, and the thing about 𝗕𝗃𝗧 is it's really cheap, right? So if you have if you want to plug into OpenAI APIs and like run things through OpenAI in some way, super expensive. $21 per million tokens. Just to give you an idea of what a token is, a token's like a character. So if you write the word the space, it's probably going to be 4 characters, THE space. Now, it's not exactly one-to-one, but that's basically how it is. So you can imagine you get through 1 million tokens very quickly. And 𝗕𝗃𝗧 is very, very different. You just do 5,000 requests. So if a request comes back and it's got 100,000 tokens in it, well, it's got 100,000 tokens in it. It's just 5,000 requests per day for $20. It's ridiculously cheaper. It's like, 99x cheaper. So people are actively using Shoots for their API plugins just because it's cheap. And this is obviously why Shoots is the #1 Bittensor subnet at the moment, because it actually gets used like a lot. And again, it's not to say that Shoots is going to suddenly become as valuable as AWS, but there's this big disconnect here that traditional centralized AI companies are having to fund their creation or their improvements through debt. Now, debt can be a fine mechanism for improving stuff, but if it's funded through debt, obviously that carries the risk of like things going very wrong at some point. Oracle right now are considered to be not able to pay their debt, which is why their A, share prices have been going down, and B, the cost of their debt is going up. Bittensor creates the same sort of like incentive mechanism for people to do, for companies to produce good work, but it pays them in TAO. So as long as TAO is successful, then these subnets actually can be successful too, right? So it's a completely different model. The centralized incumbents are funding it via like free cash flow and debt, and then Bittensor is funding it through this incentive mechanism. Now, TBC, which one actually ends up being the most effective? But right now, Bittensor is priced as if there's no chance it can be effective. And just, this is like a thing I made for Ridges. Look, like Ridges has absolutely smashed away the benchmark. As I said, ChatGPT was 88%, GPT-5, and Ridges hit 96%. So it's beating its like counterpart on the other side. Obviously, as all this is going on, like revenue growth and I just forgot to show my screen back. Obviously, as all this is going on, right, revenue growth and active users are increasing at ridiculous rates. And this is where we can sort of like start to think about things from a Metcalfe's law perspective. You've probably seen the sort of like Metcalfe's law idea that why crypto has value, or why these exponential kind of like age companies, Facebook, or Meta, etc., have value, is because of the users that they have on the network. If you don't know what Metcalfe's law is, it just says, look, the value of a network is simply a direct relationship to how many users it's got. And the more users it has, the faster, or the more aggressive the rate of growth of the value of the network becomes. It's exponential, right? N squared means that the more users you get, the more value the network gets exponentially. And so this is just a bit of play. This is just a bit of fun, really, obviously, but obviously not financial advice. Crypto is very, very risky. Do not ever invest money you can't afford to lose. Just understand that anything that you put into crypto could go to zero. It's definitely not something that you can just happily hold on to thinking that there's a guaranteed return. Crypto is very, very risky. But having said that, I think the upside, especially in like crypto AI, the thing is like one crypto AI is going to win, most likely. One of them is going to win. Right now, the leader is TAO. Who knows if something's going to come in and overtake it, but TAO is a network of networks. So when we look at Metcalfe's law as a network, TAO is a network of networks. It is its own network that has these subnets on it. And each subnet itself is, by definition, a network. It's a decentralized network. And so think about this. TAO's here in the middle. One particular subnet is over here as a network of TAO. And then this subnet here is a network of distributed computers that are trying to solve this particular subnet's problem. Maybe this subnet wants to know if it's going to rain in San Francisco tomorrow. That's all it solves. That's the only problem it has. That's the only problem it wants to try and solve. All of these guys down here are all trying to solve that one problem. Obviously, they're a network, right? Each single node on that subnet, or each miner on that subnet, each validator on that subnet, each staker on that subnet is in and of itself creating its own network. So it tends to like a network of networks, which means that these numbers can get ridiculous very, very quickly. And so if we think about that Metcalfe's law, then if we add some figures to TAO, right? We can say, look, Ethereum has 400,000 daily active users right now. Bittensor has, 5,000. This isn't quite right because it's probably quite a bit higher than this. It's hard to get data for all these subnets because the data for the usage of the actual subnet is not really, is kind of quite hard to get. Obviously, we can see how many miners there are, how many validators there are, all that sort of stuff, but we can't really see how much usage the actual application is getting, right? So this is probably even higher than this already. But then once we've got that, we can say, look, hey, where's my little slider gone? I had a slider on this somewhere. Okay, I've lost my slider. That's okay. We'll just use this one. Growth scenario analysis. If ETH grows in value by 200,000 users, so 1.5x increase, then its network growth should actually go up by 2.25x, which is quite a big increase, right? And so you can project ETH's market cap to be $850 billion at that point. Whereas if TAO has like a 20x increase in its user base, then the upside is like ridiculous. Obviously, I'm not saying TAO is going to go to $115,000. This is simply a model based upon Metcalfe's law, assuming that if Bittensor gets a bunch more daily active users, which, arguably it should, right? Because you've got these businesses on here that are doing actual useful stuff. They're not just like being like, oh, come in, we're going to put some bonds on chain. They're like, right, we're going to go and basically battle AWS and try and produce something that gets a better result with less downtime for cheaper. That's what they're trying to do. So this is quite a funny estimation. Obviously, puts TAO like an absolutely ridiculous valuation. Personally, I don't hold any ETH anymore. Maybe that's like a ridiculous thing, being in crypto and not holding ETH. But like my portfolio now is basically just, I always think it's my strategy is to hold less tokens with higher conviction. So I just like think about what do I have the most amount of conviction in? What can I convince myself the most that I have in this thesis? And then I just try and hold more of that thing and less of the other things. So for me, it's just like, obviously Bitcoin, I have to hold a decent amount of that. And then it's just like, do I want to hold TAO, which I think has much, much, much higher upside than something like ETH, or do I want to hold ETH? And the case is relatively simple for me. So that's why I basically hold TAO and absolutely not ETH. Now, just as a little aside, right? This is what I do with my TAO, because if you have TAO, you need to stake it, because if you don't stake it, it used to be 18% per year APY. Now it's 9%, right? We just went through the halving. Give you an idea again. This was the emission rate. This sort of like aggressive line here. It's just trailed off. Now it's this where this kink in the line comes. We're now at this sort of like slightly less aggressive emission rate, but still TAO inflates at like 9% per year now, basically, right? What that means is if you're not staking it, you're paying for everyone else to like earn staking rewards whilst you get none. So if you're going to hold TAO, then you definitely should be staking it, really, because that's like, otherwise you're paying 9% per year and you're just getting diluted away. What you can do though with TAO, which is kind of interesting, is you can just, what you can do though with TAO, which is kind of interesting, is you can, because really what TAO is like it's kind of like the SPX, right, for Bittensor as a whole. Because if you hold TAO, then you hold every single subnet on Bittensor. If you hold every single subnet on Bittensor, or a portion of that, you can think about it like, if TAO is to win, the only way TAO can ever possibly win, or Bittensor can ever possibly win, is if a given subnet, one of these things, ends up being really successful. If a given subnet does not end up being successful, then TAO cannot win. It needs one of these at least, if not more, to actually like win whatever game they're playing. Because if you think about it, all Bittensor is a network of these networks, and one of these networks or more of these networks need to actually produce the thing they're trying to produce and get people to use their thing, give them revenue, give them whatever else. Otherwise, it's just a failed experiment. And the incumbents are obviously just gonna win. So it needs one of these to be successful. It needs 𝗏𝗏𝗏, an Aphanine, or whatever, right? It needs whether it's inference, whether it's prediction, whether it's providing software or providing infrastructure, whatever it is, some of those need to be successful. Otherwise, essentially, Bittensor won't win. And on Mentant Mines, this is actually where I stake my TAO, right? You can basically just choose to stake your TAO. That's all you can do. Or people can choose to stake. I'm going to choose the top 5 subnets, for example. This one here, this currently pays 69% APY because, again, the emission rates are so aggressive. This is why subnet tokens have been basically down only. You can choose to just hold the top 5 subnets so that if TAO is to ever win, one of those subnets is probably going to win. One of those subnets is probably going to be in the top 5. And so that you can just like have this market cap weighted, just like an index tracker, hold the top 5, hold the top 15, whatever. The reality is, if you think TAO is going to be successful, or if someone thinks TAO is going to be successful, then just holding TAO is like the easiest way to sort of like push that play forward, right? Trying to pick individual subnets is obviously massively risky and very, very likely to go very wrong, really, because you're trying to choose a given unicorn. All TAO is a, like this, I made this little dashboard, and it's quite simple, right? Like TAO is like holding the SPX, where you get to hold every single unicorn that comes along. Whereas if you try and pick, the winner, you're just stock picking, which, some people are quite good at, but most people are very bad at, and most people lose money doing. As I said, with certain providers, you can go market cap weighted for top 5, top 15. You could just bet on inference subnets. You could just bet on prediction-based subnets. For me, I just basically hold TAO, and then a small little portion is in the top 5, and then a small little portion is in ridges and shoots. That's what I do. But really, it's just a bet on TAO. But I think there is going to be something crypto related that ends up beating or winning some particular game of against the central incumbents. I think that's going to be the case. Right now, TAO is ahead in that sort of game, but it's so far behind. It's so far behind. I did make a dashboard actually that was sort of showing you how far behind TAO was. I wonder if I can find that again. Estimating how much, because if we estimate that AI is going to be worth, there was a recent estimate 1.8 trillion by 2030. I mean, that just seems not even remotely high enough, to be honest. It was I can't remember who made it, but it doesn't even seem remotely high enough. Right now, TAO is 3 billion, right? So it's if you extrapolate by 2030, you've got this sort of $1.8 trillion industry. You'd imagine the decentralized sort of version of that captures some of that market. Is it 1%? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? I don't know. If it's 10%, it's a fucking lot, is the reality. Let me just see if I can find this dashboard a minute. I don't think I'm going to be able to find it, actually. I think it's gone. Right. Any questions in this chat? Let me have a look. Interesting insights. Guys, so one extra thing, right? Ledger still have this ongoing sale. These are the ones I have. These Nano S's. These are my favorite ones, to be honest. And they're giving you $10 of Bitcoin with each purchase now as well. You can get discounts on all of these with the link in the description. They're giving you $80 with this stacks, $70 of Bitcoin with the flex. But to be honest, I mean, for a start, right, if you haven't got a hardware wallet and you're in crypto, please don't let losing your crypto be the thing that makes you go and get a hardware wallet. Believe me, I did that. It's absolutely not anything I wish on anybody. It's awful. Holding all your stuff on a hot wallet is a disaster. So the fact that you can just secure or buy insurance for your crypto for $43 is obviously very, very good value. Personally, you can get these like much more expensive ones if you really like the idea of having a touch screen and whatever. But I just use these ones. These are the ones I use. I have a bunch of them. I have this one here. These are the ones I use. I just have these little ones here. Yes, you have to like use these little buttons on the side to get through stuff. So if that's a bit annoying to you, having a touch screen is much, much nicer. But for me, it's just a super easy insurance policy, making sure that my crypto is offline, not on a, it's not on a hot wallet. I mean, honestly, I really don't make losing your crypto be the thing that makes you take your security seriously. It's not worth it. Definitely not worth it. Right. Do you know what, chaps? I think that covers today. I think that covers it. I really want to find that dashboard that I had earlier. If you don't know, I mean, we're speaking about AI, right? All of these dashboards here, they were all built using Claude. Claude is so good. Claude is so good. If you don't use Claude, right? All this stuff was built using Claude. It's just like amazing. This was built using Claude. This was built using Claude. If you don't, if you currently use like Chat or Gemini, and you want to make like nice looking dashboards and stuff, just transition straight to Claude. It's like night and day how much better it is at making these sort of like kinds of displays. It's amazing. But otherwise, I reckon that covers it for today. I'm very, very sorry about the mic being disconnected at the start. Oh, one more thing, just on TAO. Look, right now, this is the sum of alpha prices. So alpha is all the subnets. They're just called alpha tokens. This is since dTAO was sort of like introduced. Right now, they're trading at like roughly 1-to-1. That means if you add up all of the subnets market caps, they are basically equal to TAO's market cap. So, you know, 1.05 means that, let's say TAO's market cap was 2 billion, then the market cap of all the subnets added together would be 2.1 billion, right? So this sort of like level of 1 looks to be like a natural place for these subnets to be falling. And it kind of makes sense, right? The value of all the sort of subnets together is about the value of TAO overall. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. It was obviously much, much higher. So sort of trailed out, and it's been trading around 1 for a long time. So I think this 1 line is probably going to be sort of the oscillator. Maybe it trades a little bit below sometimes. Maybe that's good value. Maybe it trades a little bit above sometimes. Maybe that's the time to sort of like think about moving from subnets back into TAO. But fundamentally, I think this sort of 1-to-1 relationship makes a lot of sense. But if we look here, right, TAO in subnets is actively increasing. What does that mean? It means that people are taking their TAO and they're staking it in subnets. That means these subnets are, by definition, becoming more and more and more valuable over time. It doesn't mean the subnet token itself is necessarily going up in price. It means the total amount of value that the subnet holds is increasing in price, which is like interesting to sort of like keep your eye on, I think. The tokenomics are great if you zoom out and you think about like 10 years, 20 years time, but just like in the interim, people are just getting crushed because the unlocks have been so pushing so much supply into the market. TBC, what happens now? dTAO now the halving's happened. I don't think it's going to be an immediate sort of like, well, number go up from here. I think it's probably going to be quite a lot of volatility. I do think, however, TAO is like a very interesting way to express an idea that you think that someone thinks that like AI crypto has or like decentralized AI has a chance of beating centralized AI. And right now, TAO for me is like the easiest way to sort of take that bet. So that covers the thesis. That's it. If you want a bit more information around about the AI kind of bubble situation I was speaking about earlier, then go to go to YouTube. Obviously on Banter has a bunch of videos. I've done a bunch of these videos very, very recently on what I think might happen to like where the sort of risk for AI blowing up is. Hey, look, it's me. Where the sort of risk to AI blowing up is. Hope that doesn't open Banter. If you go here, videos, right? These videos, more pain ahead. It won't stop until are all sort of like AI kind of bubble-esque things. And this one here that I did on the weekend is a theory that the PMI, so the Purchase Manufacturing Index, which everyone's been speaking about ad nauseum actually very recently, is led by oil, right? So the price of oil going up or down. Yes, there's other things that impact the price of oil, but super interesting chart that basically shows you that, look, it looks like until we start to see some demand coming back for like oil, i.e. goods and services demand at like the sort of like basic level, probably not going to see a massive, easy reversal in this PMI that everyone's sort of looking for. So go check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, thank you ever so much for watching. Appreciate your time. I shall see you on Wednesday. We're going to be talking about 𝗏𝗏𝗧 on Wednesday. If you don't know what 𝗏𝗏𝗧 is, check out the show on Wednesday. 𝗏𝗏𝗧 is probably going to be the biggest launch of 2025, and I'm going to be showing you how I'm playing. That launch is probably happening before the end of the year. So yeah, see you then. Ciao, ciao.